please welcome Tim Rathmann. Tim, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. Thanks for having me. Thanks everyone who's listening.
So we have Tim. We've of course known each other for a little while here and have had some discussions. And this interview is actually a bit of a related to your concept of origin stories, which resonated with me. I love that the concept of doing that. But I want to hear from you. What exactly? What do you see as origin stories, and where'd that idea come from, and what do you see it being all about? Tell me a little bit about that.
My brain, can only handle so much technical stuff. When actually, I want to learn about other people. The petroleum industry is much more diverse, I think, than other industries, and the opportunity to live overseas and gain that perspective was just eye-opening. You realize that we're here in the U.S., we're in Denver, but there's a whole another world, the whole world out there of people. So,
Mike, tell me a little bit about the having a family, raising children internationally. How was that?
Yeah, so I just have one son. He's 13 now, but he was born in Denver here in 2007. And when I first went overseas, I got the opportunity to go to Australia. And he was born in October 2007, and we went overseas in October of 2008. We're that couple that has the crying baby on an international flight. It's like, oh yeah, I'm sorry about that.
A corporate gig, or tell me a little bit about your career in general, just how it's how you've gotten here. What's gotten you here.
Yeah, no, I guess kind of go back. I'm originally from California. Born in Santa Barbara. I got my geology degree from UC Santa Barbara in 2000, and was able to intern with a local oil company out there. That's no longer around. But then in 2008, things were booming. My son was just born. I was kind of looking for a change. I've always been fascinated by international, and so I was fortunate. A recruiter picked me up, and a recruiter I'd been talking to another one in Australia. A number of interviews. We actually flew over there for a physical interview, and then they flew us back.
Wow.
That was a big round trip. In about 4 days, we flew 14 hours. I had an interview, and then we flew back with a job offer. So that was amazing. Wow. They paid for the flights. They paid our accommodation. It was based in Adelaide, South Australia, and then kind of after 2 years of Adelaide, I got transferred to a company and was working in Brisbane in Eastern Australia. And that was fantastic. And then the company I was working with, my 4-year visa was expiring. And the way it works there is either you apply to become a permanent resident, or then you kind of ship out and move on. And there was a kind of a tax structure that we had to ponder on, and so it didn't make sense to stay there. But I got the opportunity that the company I was working for transferred me to the corporate office in outside London. So we actually filled out the paperwork, and we had to surrender all of our passports in the mail to the Philippines for about 2.5 weeks. And that was kind of scary because we were just basically put. We had no documentation. Our passports were surrendered, but then it came back 3 weeks later. We were ecstatic, and then we got everything associated with flights and relocation companies, and
gotcha.
And then got scooped up and traveled the long way. From Adelaide to Brisbane to London.
Okay. And then so then fast forward. So then London to Denver or California? California? Okay.
Yeah, so after being in London for about 15 months, we realized that we need to be back closer to family, and family was back in California. So I joined Occidental Petroleum in Long Beach.
Okay.
So another choice location, very, very lucky on these locations, and was back in California doing Long Beach geosteering horizontal wells, back doing the California thing. Up until about 2016, where I was then let go. And that's where I kind of became a consultant. I worked for regulatory for a little while.
Okay.
And then 2017, I came back to Denver.
Okay. Okay. So 2017 is when you landed back in Denver.
Back in Denver, yeah. And I was working for another outfit that I thought would be a long run, but due to various scenarios, again, laid off unexpectedly in October 2018. And that was the third time in my career. And it's a blow. You see so many people out there don't have jobs. This is their first time getting laid off. And it's part of the industry, but also my goal is, is to try to give back, try to tell my story, how we work with you and how we mentor others and get through it. How do we pivot? How do we, and becoming a consultant has sort of forced me into doing that.
Well, and one of the things we've talked about is inspiration. I think you may have mentioned it earlier, or alluded to it. You're a guy that wants to inspire. You inspire people. You want to inspire people. And I'm curious, who do you model? I mean, who was it in your life, I mean, outside oil and gas and or inside oil and gas? Who are the people that come to mind when you think of inspiration? I mean, who inspired you?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I guess, and let's sort of think about it. I guess there's both professional and personal. I think I've always just sort of looked up at my dad. My dad, he's a PhD in mechanical engineering. He was a professor, for his entire career. So he was big on academic, and I have two older brothers. And so he raised, so my parents raised all three of us. My mom had to deal with three boys growing up, and, but he was always positive. He was always really curious about people, about science, and really supportive. He had a wide range of interest, and so he was a great family guy. Really.
Well, and look at you. I just read off just a couple of things I plucked from your LinkedIn page, and
right.
more that I know about you. We haven't gotten into 2N Media and some of the other we will.
Yeah.
But so you got laid off in 2018.
Yes.
So and what I mean, you mentioned a little bit about the pain, or it's just a blow. I think you called it a blow. And let's talk. I know there's a lot of people, as you know, also out there that have in that same state. What's that been like? What's it been like the last couple of years as you've kind of maneuvered through here, the minefield, kind of the mental minefield, of course, as well as just trying to figure out a pathway to go. And I know you've done several things. I'm curious where you're at today, but what's that journey kind of been like since 2018?
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. It's been challenging. I think emotionally, a bit of financial, because of there's a big financial hit. I think I wasn't expecting it. I had been through it before and know the industry, so we'd sort of prepared for it. But when it came to the shock, it was basically I took Monday off to spend with my family, and I came in Tuesday morning and just ready to start the week again. I just moved offices. We just created a new asset team, so I was transferred to a new team. I moved offices. Week before, I packed it up, moved offices, set it back up, ready to go. And I come in, and my supervisor basically, hey, can I talk to you in a conference room? Oh, okay, sure, no problem. And yeah, okay, so I walk in the conference room, and it's kind of a standard. There's HR sitting on the table, paperwork, and I was like, oh no, here we go again.
Yeah.
And it was a blow because I couldn't quite get the information about why. Why was this happening? What's the greater picture? Did I post something on LinkedIn? Did I do something? Was it a performance related issue? I didn't have any answers, and they were being kind of tight-lipped and couldn't give me any answers. So I left the office, packed it up, kind of went through a deal of emotions, and that next 5 months, I think it went through the stages of grief. I don't know quite the order, but you get angry, you get upset, and it kind of got to the point. And I finally got some answers, realized it really wasn't my fault. It was the state of the industry. I probably took a little bit too personal. However, there was a full team that left I left basically, thought, we're friends, we're colleagues, and I wasn't able to talk to him ever again because of, just the way HR policies work.
Wow.
So it was really a challenge because trying to come up with what are we going to do financially. We just moved back to Denver, thinking, okay, no problem. I'll just walk across the street, get another geology job. And of course, I'm a little bit more experienced, and then the industry, just started to collapse. But I was frustrated. I was upset. I was angry. And it took a while to sort of get over that and, acceptance. But what helped me was to get out there, continue on, step up, take over as presidents of DIPS, continue networking, continue learning about people, learn about the industry, and then helping the, kind of the younger, less experienced people go through, kind of knowledge, help knowledge sharing. But I had my consulting firm sort of set up. I was very fortunate to meet up with a former colleague that he had a little bit of work for me. And it was all about networking. I've never tried to burn any bridges. I've always tried to keep positive and keep in touch with former mentors and those who have saved me. And I got into sort of a little bit of the personal influences and person who inspire me, but the professional, my former mentors, my former bosses, I kept in touch with them, and they actually came back around, and because I kept in touch with them both personally and professionally, and they were able to kind of give me a little bit of work and kind of keep us afloat. So I think one message here is just for those who are going through the same thing that I went through, and you're going through tough times, just keep networking. And tell your story, because people want, you see a resume, you see the academics, but you don't know who the person is.
Yeah, exactly. And that was kind of I think that's probably part of your, your mission with the concept of origin stories, and kind of what inspired me with this too. It's
right.
The stories. I realized this morning that I need to come up with a name for whatever this is, and I don't want to steal origin stories. That's perfect, but it's the stories of the faces behind. I mean that. Too often, social media, we see this facade, we see, whatever people want to project, and it's hard to project sometimes the more difficult parts of the story, and yet those are the parts of the story that really impact life. It's not necessarily just the facade we keep up. I mean, it's all the stuff that's going on inside, and you and I have talked a lot about that, I know, in the past, and so that's part of, just for people to understand. I think that to hear your story and realize, wow, I relate to that, and somehow in that there is a piece of I don't want to say comfort. That sounds a little too not exactly right, but there's just something in knowing that. Other people are struggling like I'm struggling. There's support in that, and that's why I appreciate you having the courage to share your story.
Yeah, no, and it's sort of when you meet people and you all can relate to them at any level, then there's a commonality. It gets easier to talk to, and just, hey, he's going through, or he already went through it. Maybe we're going through the same thing. Maybe we should talk. And with the pandemic, it's kind of forced people not to talk in person. And make people who are afraid to be, taken a picture of and yet be on a video and live video. That's something that you need to overcome as well.
You had a couple of questions here, and we'll end with these. I think these would be fun little questions. Just one of them was, if you could go back in time, who would you want to meet and get to know?
That's a good one. I think I'd always, if there was just one person, I'd want to go back and meet Leonardo da Vinci.
Woo!
He was sort of a master of lots of things.
Oh,
he was diverse. He had his, he had interest in so many different private and public and academic aspects of it.
Philosophical.
His mind must have been, just going nonstop. And I've read that he He only slept 20 minutes at a time. So
Wow.
that's impressive. And then, the Denver Museum of Science, they just recently had an exhibit on it. And I didn't realize that he created war machines for the private sector
Wow.
way back when, that were just as intense engineering that were kind of brutal, using horses to just, you go into battle and try to, wipe out as many people in a crowd as possible, crowd of soldiers. So, but the fact that his mind is everywhere, it seemed all at once, but then he was focused and he was an excellent, he documented things. He was scientific. He was methodical. He tried stuff, sometimes failed. He went into a sector of building war machines that was probably now is considered, man, that guy created some pretty gnarly weapons.
That's incredible. Yeah, I had no idea.
But he would probably be my number one.
That's a good one. That's a good one. That's a good one. Okay, and let's end with, what's your favorite movie?
I gotta go back. I'm a Shawshank Redemption guy. Always have been. It's a good story. Andy Dufresne. He's got a passion in geology. They talk about pressure and time, and he's just very patient, and he uses the system, very educated. But that's always my go-to movie. Is I'm a big fan of Shawshank Redemption, and where he retires on the beach, down in Mexico. The Zihuatanejo place that he talks about is not really like is not the real Zihuatanejo, but no, I'm a big fan of Shawshank Redemption.
That's a good one. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. So what, and I guess I did have one other question. I'm just curious about the chickens. Let's talk a little bit. I mentioned the chickens. How did that start? How did you get into chickens? Where'd that come from?
Yeah. So we live in the city. We live in Denver here, and just about 3 miles southeast of downtown. And we've been always talking about it, just doing something extracurricular with my son. And when the pandemic and when COVID arrived and we all got shut in, or kind of quarantine, it was sort of motivated that, and we're like, hey, let's see if we can go get some chickens. We have space in our backyard. Realize that in Denver you are allowed 8 hens and two dwarf goats on the same permit for $25 a year. Like, wow, we can have 8 chickens. So as sort of I bought a book, and we went down to the local farm store, and it was March, and so it was chick season. So we went down there with my wife and son, and we're like, hey, let's check this out. Our neighbor had raised chickens, so she gave a little bit of tips. So we came home. We raised them for 3 months in the basement, in the bathtub, and allowed them to brood for a while. And then we built them a coop outside and a run. And now we have 8 hens. I sometimes I share some stories in my 2N Media movies, but it was all because of COVID, quarantine. We needed something else to do. We wanted animals, and it's turned out really well. We get 5 eggs a day, and we bought 8 of them because the book said you should typically buy about 25% more because sometimes they pass away. Some became roosters. All 8 of our hens, and they're quite spoiled. They yell at me, yell at us if they're not being let out, and we've had good luck with them. So stay tuned, everybody, for more pictures and videos of the chickens.
That's great.
It's great fun. They all have their own personalities. They all have names. And,
that is just right. Yeah, I think that's fantastic. How about the cold? We have this cold day, some snow. Anything you need to do to warm up the chickens, or there is
a little bit of precaution we take. The coop they have is pretty warm. I mean, chickens have been around for thousands and thousands of years. So I think they're related to the dinosaurs to some extent, right? So they're pretty hardy. And I do have a heater in them, which they don't need until it gets down below 15 for a period of time, a few days. But right now, I think they don't go out in the snow. They just kind of tuck in. But yeah, it's not really a concern. It's drier here. We're not worried about predators in the city. There was a couple hawks around. The neighborhood cats don't seem to bother, and so we're lucky there. But in these cold winter climates, colder days, they seem to be doing pretty well. I have a dog bowl that's heated. that's where they water,
Oh.
and so the water doesn't freeze. So,
Sure.
but they
Wow,
do good as long as you are knowledgeable on them and keep them fed.
And you haven't lost any though. They've all stayed healthy, and you're 8 for 8.
8 for 8. Yeah, first
Good for
go.
you.
That's a success story. I like sharing success stories, and that's a personal one on the
That's a
chicken
good
lovers
one.
out there.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Well, listen, Tim, I really enjoyed it. I appreciate you taking the time to do this. I know you got a lot going on, a lot on your plate, and I appreciate that. So,
No, thank you.
yeah, good luck with everything. We look forward to 2N Media, more posting on 2N Media, and following along with your chickens.
Yeah, sounds good, Steve.
The fire